Hi everyone, today I'm going to be doing a quick review of Rosewater by Tade Thompson. This is the first book in the Wormwood Trilogy. I'm reading it because the Wormwood Trilogy is on the list of finalists for Best Series for the Hugo Awards this year. So the hard part of doing a reading project like this, where I've committed to reading and reviewing all of these books that are finalists for the Hugo Awards, is that I'm going to end up reading some books that are things that I wouldn't normally pick up. And that's overall a good thing because it helps broaden my horizons. I get exposed to some new books and new authors, and I get to try new things. But on the other hand, there are invariably going to be some books that I just don't enjoy very much. And it's not because they are not good books. I don't think any of the books that I've read so far that were nominated for the Hugos are bad books, as in, by a bad book, I'd say something that's just the prose isn't good, or it's not well thought out, or there are things about it otherwise that just don't make sense in the plot, or that I think are just plain just not well written. So I can't say that that's true of anything I've read yet, but sometimes there are going to be books that just aren't to my taste. Like, I am not the target reader for that book, and that's okay, except that normally if I read a book like that, I might not do a review of it because I don't think I'm the right person to do that. I don't think that I want to just say bad things about a book that might be a good book for someone else just because it didn't really suit me as a reader. But anyway, here we are. This was a book that is not something I would have picked up on my own necessarily, and I don't feel like I am the right reader for this book, but I've committed to reviewing it for this project, and I'm just going to do my best to talk about it in a more neutral and objective way and say what I think the strengths of the book are and who might enjoy this. And so hopefully, if this is a book that you're interested in learning more about, that this is a review that will serve you. Rosewater is set in a near future Nigeria. Most of the plot is set in the year 2066, but there are flashbacks that cover a period from about 2045 to 2060. It's set in this city called Rosewater, which exists around an alien biodome that has kind of sprung up. And once a year, this dome, I guess, basically opens and people in the city are healed. The dead who haven't been buried deeply enough also come back to life. So there's also sort of a zombie element going on here, although it's not a huge part of the plot. Now, there is an alien presence on Earth that goes back a few years, an alien entity called Wormwood crash landed or landed on the Earth and has sort of seeded the Earth with alien things. Because of this, some people have developed mind reading abilities, basically, and there's also something called the xenosphere, which allows these people who are mind readers or sensitives to project their consciousness basically into another plane. It's kind of a cyberpunky feel where they have avatars that exist and are doing things in a non-physical realm that are also connected to the physical realm. As a reading experience, the book reads kind of like a blend between a cyberpunk novel and something that's a little bit more of a hard-boiled detective fiction, which is a little bit of a strange cross, but that's basically what I would compare it to. And I think where the trilogy seems to be going overall, from what I've seen and what I can tell from the first book, is that this is intended to be a first contact story. So a lot of the core parts of the plot have to do with how this alien presence has influenced the Earth and has influenced people, and it's not too clear, especially at the beginning, what it does or what it wants, but I feel like this is something that will be delved into even more deeply after the first book. The main character, Caro, is not a very likable character, and I think he's definitely intended to be an anti-hero. He has a criminal past, and it's not because of a tragic backstory or anything. He is literally from a wealthy family and just discovered that he was good at stealing and also liked it. He's pretty self-absorbed and, well, maybe more selfish. I'll say he's more selfish and a little bit self-absorbed and doesn't really seem to care too much about people other than himself. He's definitely an interesting character, and definitely complex. I didn't find his head a super comfortable place to be, but if you enjoy reading from the perspective of characters like that, then I think it's a really well-written character. Caro is one of the sensitives that I mentioned, so he can read people's minds, and he is working for a branch of the government that is dedicated to using people like this and their powers. He also has a sort of undercover day job at a bank for part of the book, so his use and discovery of these abilities plays a pretty large role in the book. There's also a fairly graphic element to this story. This is something I've seen a lot in a lot of alien invasion first contact stories. Some fairly graphic things happen to people and bodies. Some of it is just violence, but there's some other weirder things as well. This is, again, something that is not really for me. I don't mind books that have graphic content or things like that, but when it just sort of gets weird and maybe a little more body horror, I get pretty squicked out. Just my general feeling while reading it kind of reminded me of the time I read a book that was supposed to be about an astronaut, and then it turned into a first contact story, and there were aliens with tentacles that turned people into zombies, and that kind of thing just makes me really uncomfortable. But obviously there are people that really enjoy these kinds of slightly creepy and disturbing stories. I think I'm just a little too easily grossed out. It's more for me the gross out factor than anything else. So again, if that's something you like, and obviously there are people that really like that, then this is a great book. I do think it's really cool that this book is set in Nigeria. The main character is Yoruba. I have seen that African science fiction is a genre that's on the rise, and I do think that that's very interesting. The main character is Yoruba, and it was interesting to me to see the things that the author took from contemporary Nigerian culture and incorporated into this near future situation. It's something that I've seen a lot of people imagining what America will be like. So it's just interesting to see a take on how other cultures and other countries might evolve in the future in these certain science fiction scenarios. I should also mention that this book is set in multiple time periods. There's a present day narrative, and then there are flashbacks or just, past sections telling the story of Karo and what he went through at different times in his life as he learned more about his abilities and got recruited into government service. And it just gives a little more perspective on the world and on the city of Rosewater as it gradually came into existence, because it's a very new city and he was there from the beginning. The flashbacks or like the past narrative is not told in order, and it can be a little bit hard to keep track of, but it's one of those things where the further along it goes, the more you start to put together the pieces and have it make sense. That is a device that I do like at times. I think I was kind of neutral on it here, but that's another thing that makes this book a little bit more complicated to read. But if you don't mind, if you like puzzles and having things gradually become clear to you as you read, then this book offers a lot of that. So if you like dark and gritty books, if you like science fiction, more cyberpunk, near future science fiction, if you like alien invasions, if you like morally gray characters, I think this book would be a great read for you. I guess since I'm reading this for the Hugo Awards best series list, I should be answering the question of, is this a series that I would continue? Because I'm only going to be reading the first book in each series on the list for now, because there's no way I can read all of those series by the end of next month. So I don't think this is a series that I will continue reading, but it is a trilogy, it is complete, so if this interests you, this could be a great read. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more videos from me. I hope that you enjoyed watching this review. I hope that I did a good job keeping it balanced and fair and gave a good impression of what the book is about, even though it's not something that really felt suited to me.